I was preparing for this, and we've gone over this in world history. So I'm not going to be, going over the same things. I'm just going to add on a few things because I expect you, one, the textbook will cover it, two, you have a general understanding of imperialism, and this is kind of review, okay? I love this type of map infographic thing because people, especially like, Asian American kids that live in Walnuts, have no idea what Africa is like. No idea. Like, yeah, dark people, right?
How'd you know? I donate cans.
I'm only saying what we all think, okay? I'm not making any negative remarks. I'm just saying. Right, so in order for us to not be so ignorant, right, isn't this mind-blowing? Right, we've been studying Europe this whole time, and look at what Europe is trying to do. It's trying to take over the world, specifically Africa, as one of its main places, and it's a quarter of the size of the entire continent of Africa. Africa is huge. Put the U.S., put China all into the other.
Really?
It's Africa. That's what it's saying up here, Moses. You see it? You see it? All right, upper right-hand corner. Okay, the different types of rule here. Did your textbook go over these terms? No. Oh. More or less. Okay, here we go. So this is just for us to have as a reference because we'll be using these terms. Spheres of influence, protectorates, and we also obviously know colonies, right? 13 original colonies. Different colonies are being set up. You guys remember from world history, direct rule, indirect rule?
No. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. Kind of. Amber?
Is it indirect rule where you rule from somewhere else?
Kind of, right? It deals with more personnel than the somewhere else, yes. Okay, so if you do something directly, it's very hands-on, right? If you do things indirectly, it's through someone else. Okay, so indirect rules when you have local leaders, right, that are of the native people there, and you work with them, you kind of train them, they listen to you, you tell them what to do. Direct is like, oh, here, British Viceroy, now in India, okay? He's the governor of India, right? He's in charge. All right, so we understand the spectrum. Okay, we talked about different types of colonies, right? Different, all that kind of stuff. Different types of imperialism. I just need to make sure if the AP test uses these terms, you're not like, I have no idea what the heck is a protectorate, okay? So, let's move on. Europe. In Africa, in 1880, we're going to see that they're only going to have 10%. 10%! Nothing, right? It's like the tip of the iceberg. But by 1914, everything except for two countries. Which two countries? You have a map. You have a map. I mean, okay, granted, it's not in color and that kind of stuff. It's not Libya, but Liberia. Okay, Liberia. Liberia is on the west. Okay, and Ethiopia is on the east side. And then in this map it says Abyssinia, like abyss. Cool. All right, so 1914, every single territory except for those two countries. What we're going to see is that we talked about this in the last lecture, right? It's really on the exterior, the coastal cities. What do they set up?
Military.
Okay, military bases, trading posts, trading stations, right? Because what gets to the coast? What is that transportation? Yeah, trade ships. Okay, but then because of the industrialization, bringing in railroads, right? Bringing in electricity. The technology allows them to go and penetrate to the interior, and the Congo is going to be one of the main places we're going to be talking about. One thing to know is that when they're setting up these railroads, it's not so that the African people can have their, trade amongst African nations. It's not to help them, really. It's really to export the raw materials, natural resources that they're looking to steal. One thing I thought about today is, like, I think out of all the units that I teach in world history, I think I like imperialism best. Even though it's like a pretty saddening, topic. I mean, like, basically, Europeans are dominating and taking advantage of them. But I think it's because it's very interesting how you have a mix of cultures, right? We talked about, like, we're getting into the Boers, right? And then the interaction between the super indigenous people and these educated Europeans, right? I don't know, this whole, like, whatever. Who cares about me? All right.
Do you make your world history kids watch the mission?
No, I don't show that. No. I think it's informative. The mission. Talking about Christian missionaries going.
They made us take notes. Oh yeah. Without subtitles. So I was like, I don't know what the hell.
It's a foreign film? What language is it in?
English. We were like mumbling, and I was like, I don't know what to say. And like take notes, like use time to like
All right. Watch that in your own time. AP Euro test not going to ask you about the mission. Okay, Leopold II. Okay, he is king of what country? Belgium. Then we have Henry Stanley. Where is he going to go?
Congo.
Why is he going to go to the Congo?
He's gonna look for this missionary.
Who's the missionary? Who's this guy? Dude, super important.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, David Livingstone. All right, so common names, you heard them before, it's the second time reviewing them. You just got to know that, like, honestly, usually we have a lot more other things we have to cover, and AP Euro is a lot deeper, but for the most part, between your world history class and this class for imperialism, it's pretty much the same thing, okay? So we just got to review that, right? So Christian missionary, that's a doctor, right? He's, you know, having a great time in the Congo. He finds this crazy waterfall, right? David Livingstone. He finds this crazy waterfall, and it's some like African name, but he's like, oh, I'm gonna call it Victoria Falls. Why would he call it Victoria Falls? Yes, after the Queen of Great Britain. Okay, so all right. So how does Belgium obtain the Congo? Well, it comes through where there's these treaties with the African chiefs there, and it was very misleading and manipulative, and I'm sure they just kind of outsmarted them by just twisting things around. And so Leopold is going to have control of the Congo, and it's going to be called the Congo Free State. Now, the thing is that it's not owned by Belgium at this point. It is owned by King Leopold. And so this is kind of like, people have summer mansions, right, winter palaces, and he has the Congo, right? Vast jungles, middle of Africa. And so at the Berlin Conference, this is where they say, you know what, the Congo Free State is going to be part of Leopold's personal possession, and he's looking for major natural resources that can make a lot of money, very valuable, rubber and ivory. It comes at a cost. As you can see here, you have some African individuals that have no hands, and it's very sad. And the reason why situations like this happen is because there's a quota, and saying like you need to collect this much ivory, right? Your quota is like, I don't even know how many tons per month or something like that. I don't know the numbers, okay? But the main point is that if they don't meet the quota, they chop your hand off. Okay, but what does that mean then? Are you still productive?
No.
No. So it's how are you going to get more? Exactly. So now you're going to have even less productivity, but at the same time, now they're going to starve and they're eventually going to die. So that amount of fear, right? Okay. So in 1908, this is where the Belgian Parliament recognizes there's a lot of atrocities going on, a lot of dark things that they are not approving of in the Congo, right? I mean, it's inhumane, literally. So what do? They take away the colony from Leopold and say this is now a state-owned Belgian colony. So on and so forth. Eventually, what this is saying is that, hey, the fact that Leopold invaded the Congo and pretty much just like took whatever he wanted, did whatever he wanted, a lot of South Africa, Central Africa, is now kind of like, what are we going to do with it, right? If he can take it, why can't we? All the other European countries. All right, here is a cartoon. Does someone want to read it? Who wants to be the native African and who wants to be the European soldier guy? African guy.
Okay, I can see. Your head's like right there.
I'll move. Who wants to be the European soldier guy? Sarah, sounds great. Go ahead.
Do I go first? Like, I go first. So do I go up and then to the right?
We never read comics in our lives.
I read Japanese ones.
In America, we read from top to bottom.
Well,
Left to right, yes.
Okay.
Like a book.
Yeah, so I go first, right?
There's an uh-oh.
Okay, so uh-oh. Bubble. Oh, sorry, not bubble. Okay, uh-oh.
Most unique crouch down. They can't see.
You have just been colonized. Here's your tax assessment.
But I have no money.
Roll us some cash crops, then you can pay your taxes and buy food from the company store.
Okay.
Oh my god.
Use a flop.
Here's your cash.
Use your tax.
Store peanuts, cotton.
Fine. Now what can we do for you?
Oh.
How about a line of credit?
Okay, thank you. Caitlin, you had like this Vietnamese Indian mix of an accent all together. Nothing African. All right. Okay, so we can kind of see from this. Okay, one thing is that I was looking at kind of like the questions for imperialism, and they don't really talk about what are the effects upon the people that are colonized by the Europeans. The effects. Talk about the motives, right? The causes, right? The methods, but it doesn't talk about the effects. Like they just do a bunch of stuff. But it doesn't really matter how they're affected. It matters, okay? It matters. So in world history, you probably learned this before. Amber, do you remember this comic? Breaking my heart. All right, okay, so here we go. The British Empire, okay, prided itself on being number one, top dog, on top, biggest, baddest empire at this point before World War I. Egypt is going to be a territory that will bring much pride and much fame to Great Britain. I kind of mentioned in the last lecture, so I'm not going to repeat myself, but do you guys remember like the name that I threw out there, the guy that's in charge of Egypt? Listening carefully, are we? Okay, Muhammad Ali. Not the boxer, okay, but the Turkish general, right? And so through him, right, they were able to work out where Egypt would be a protectorate. The thing is that it's really because Egypt was not stable. They were indebted to Great Britain mainly financially, and France. And because they owed that money, then you had to listen to them. So the main piece that it's really important that makes, the bang for your buck is the Suez Canal. Okay, so the Suez Canal is connecting two bodies of water. Which two bodies of water? And Red Sea. Good, okay. All right, and so it will remain a protectorate until 1956. And by having control of the Suez Canal, right, and I'll show you a map later, this is kind of their main motivation, and they can work their way south at the same time from the south, work their way north, okay? And so then you have Egypt being the first one following after that. Right south of Egypt is Sudan. Okay, Sudan, you guys have heard before, like Invisible Children, Foundation, like Civil War. Anyone?
Yeah.
Okay, the whole Coney thing, but it's not just Coney. It's beyond Coney. It's more than Coney, okay? Coney's followers. All right, so simply put, Sudan came at a cost, right? Thousands and thousands and thousands of lives. Battle's not that important. The general's not that important. The main part is that they use violence in order to achieve control in Sudan. Okay, and then you have the Fashoda incident. Yeah, Fasho. Fasho, duh, right? Fasho. Fasho. You guys don't use that anymore, huh? Dude, that was when I was in high school. Yeah, Fasho. No one says that anymore, huh? No. Fasho. Fasho. All right. Okay. What is this incident about? Textbook talk about this? Okay. Mainly France and Great Britain are looking to compete over Sudan. The problem is that France is going through this little thing called the Dreyfus Affair. Do you remember that? Okay. So how would the Dreyfus Affair affect a conflict that's happening in another continent? Why is that even relevant at all? Why is that? Think.
Like France is seen as like in a bad position.
Okay, they're in a bad position. So who are the people involved in the Dreyfus affair? Dreyfus, right? What is his? He's a Jewish what though? Okay, Jewish general, French Jewish general. Okay, and eventually France is going to back down because of all of the controversy. They don't think they're going to have like a full-on uniform army to really take down the British, and eventually they just obtain Sudan. The British Empire does. Okay, and then we jump over to South Africa. So we know South Africa is a very southern part, and then there is Cape Colony. Okay, so Cape Colony is port city, and then you have Cecil Rhodes. Cecil Rhodes, and he is an entrepreneur. Okay, and he has this dream, and he calls it Cape to Cairo. Okay, he believes from Cape Colony to Cairo, which is in what country? Egypt, that the British Empire will be able to expand and connect itself end to end. Okay, ambitious man, right? So he's looking to really dominate in this area, but what's the main motivation is that they discover some precious things. What are these precious things? Gold, but also diamonds, right? And he establishes De Beers Corporation. I don't know what it's called. De Beers. You guys heard of De Beers? You will. De Beers basically controls all of the diamond mines in the world. And so it's like really controversial. You guys seen the movie Blood Diamond?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Who has not seen Blood Diamond? Raise your hand. Okay, we'll watch it after the AP test, yeah?
That's so scary.
Really? There's so many other scary movies. Yeah. It's about blood diamonds, diamond mines that come at a cost of violence, yes. Leonardo DiCaprio's in it, right? You guys love Leonardo DiCaprio, right? Alright, so there's controversy whether or not nowadays, okay, so for example, they're like, oh, like, I don't want to buy just a diamond anymore because how do I know if someone's arm was chopped off by, you know, mining this diamond, right? So then, like, we want to have, I don't know what they call it. They call it, like, ethically sourced diamonds, meaning that they ensured that was not from De Beers and like their whole like diamond thing, right? But then the thing is, diamonds are really not worth that much. But the whole, I don't need to talk about this. Tangent, forgive me. All right, so Cecil Rhodes, entrepreneur, establishes De Beers. The important part is that in South Africa, there's North Rhodesia, South Rhodesia, coming from his name, Cecil Rhodes. You see that? Right? So his contribution, he becomes Prime Minister of Cape Colony, and so they kind of reward him, and that's the whole thing. So there's these Boers. Who are the Boers? The Dutch what? Okay, yes, the descendants. So the Dutch colonists came like a couple centuries ago, like around the 1600s, and over time they just lived there, right? And then eventually they moved inward away from Cape Colony to little regions called Transvaal and the Orange Free State. Okay, and so they're moving more in, and actually now there's going to be the Boer War, right? And the Boer War is between who and who?
Britain and Holland.
Yes, okay, so good. The Dutch and the British. Last year you guys learned about Shaka Zulu? Shaka Zulu?
Oh, I did.
Shaka Zulu. Shaka Zulu. The Zulu tribe, led by Shaka Zulu. We'll get there. All right, it's okay. See, the thing is, the difference between world history and European history is that they don't care about those things. But he's cool, right? He's the one who conquers all the other African tribes there, right? Shorter spears. All right. Anyways, okay. The British lose initially to the Boers. Kaiser Wilhelm II is going to send a telegram to the Boers and saying, hey, good job in defeating the British. And then the British find out, and so now how do the British feel about the Germans? Bitter, yeah, okay, betrayed, good. Eventually, Great Britain's much stronger, and they defeat the Boers, and so then they establish the Union of South Africa. This is putting all the South African regions and territories and mini-states into just one country. Okay, so you have Transvaal, Orange Free State, it doesn't really matter, you can list all these. Cape Colony, good, right? And then you have them just basically just dominating more and more Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, Zanzibar. And they have their dominance in there. All right, moving onward. Okay, so Suez Canal, just in case you didn't understand the importance of it, okay, if they didn't have the canal, it was finished in 1867 or something like that, okay, they would have to go all the way around Cape of Good Hope, okay, and so if you look at miles saved, 4,000 miles, right, shortcuts, right, we love shortcuts, time saved 2 weeks, imagine what you can accomplish in 2 weeks. All that product out there. Okay, Berlin Conference. You guys learned this last year, yes? Yeah. You're learning it right now. 1884, 1885. Huge part that is really important is that it's held in Berlin. No African delegates are invited. But what is the main task at hand? Okay, the division of boundaries and territories for European countries. Amber, remember this? Yes. Okay, so some of the provisions that they said. No country can claim a territory in Africa unless they have effectively controlled. Okay, this is kind of vague, but basically if they can actually take over, not just say like, oh, that's ours. They can't just claim it, right? They have to actually have control over that territory in order to claim it. Also, for slavery, they are going to get rid of the slave trade. However, instead of trading slaves, they would just treat them like slaves that live there. Okay, so it's not much better. It's not much better. Bismarck, okay, works with Ferry, and they are the ones who are actually sponsoring this conference and inviting, right, the European powers to come. Why would he want to do this? What's Bismarck's intention? Make sure, like, I want to know. Come, let's talk. What else? Okay. Let's back up a little bit. 1884, 1885. When did Germany unify? 1871, right? So we're talking about not even 15 years as a country, and so they're behind. They want to get in on imperialism. Let's talk about it. How can we do it, right? And so this is going to be where Germany's rise as an imperial power is going to come. Are they going to have a whole lot of land? No, not a whole lot, but you know, they're going to try to, you know, kind of catch up and do as much as they can and catch up to Britain and France. And the scramble for Africa is now going. Okay? All right, as much as there's a bunch of bullet points for France, basically Algeria. Do we know where Algeria is? Yeah. North Africa. Okay, North Africa has a larger Arab population, so they're not looking like your African typical image that you can see. That's more of sub-Sahara. Okay, so we talked about that in the religious motives. You guys remember that? Right? Okay, because they were influenced by what religion? Muslim is not a religion? Islam is a religion, yes. Okay, so the reason why France is going to take stronger control of Algeria is because there's some pirates there and messing with their shipping ships, I guess. And so they just use that excuse, okay? Theme in imperialism. European powers are justifying themselves to take over more control because they feel threatened, or their means and methods are being stunted by local native uprisings, okay? Tunisia, where's this? Right next to Algeria, okay? You guys remember last year there was the whole uprising, Arab Spring. Who remembers that? Anyone? There was like revolution going on in Tunisia, Libya. Okay, so it's going to be a French protectorate there, and they justify it in saying, hey, you know what, there's all these like little rebels that are trying to raid into Algeria, so we're going to take over Tunisia too. Sounds good, right? And then you have the northern Congo basin that was awarded to them at the Berlin Conference, And if you can look in the middle, that's where French Equatorial Africa is, right above the Belgian Congo. That's kind of what they call the Congo Basin. Somaliland, Somalia, east side. We got a little French Somalia. Okay, Madagascar. You guys seen that movie? Yeah. French West Africa, huge chunk, right? But really, like, wow, so much land, so much sand, really. Okay, Sahara Desert, cool. Okay, and then you have Morocco. Anyone have Moroccan food?
No. Is it good?
Yeah, all food's good. All food's good. All right, we got all this. Morocco, okay. Here we go. So this is where we have two countries. Which two countries do we have? Okay, so France is on the left, Britain's on the right. Amber, you've seen this before? Remember this? Yes or no? Not a yeah. Okay, so they are, what are they doing? They're making a peace treaty. They're toasting. That's all I was asking for. What are they doing? They're toasting. Okay, they toast in celebration and recognizing they each have conquered, right, those territories, Egypt and Morocco, and then you have them, right? Oh, another thing, okay, AP test. There's going to be some political cartoons. We haven't gone over a lot of political cartoons in this class, but it's really more in the 19th, 20th century where there's more political cartoons being done. We've done a couple, right, Martin Luther and stuff, you know, but when we do like practice AP tests, that's when we'll kind of figure out whether or not you can really analyze them or not. Okay? For the most part, political cartoons aren't that hard to understand. You just kind of need to know what time period it's from, and then it'll magically figure itself out. Okay? All right, Germany. Kind of mentioned all this. I just need to make sure that we cover that all of Europe is participating in this, or the main major countries. Okay? Germany unified in 1871, so they're late. They're late. And so at first, Bismarck's concerns was, hey, we are concerned not so much about what we're losing out on in Africa, but we're concerned about Russia. Because Russia, right, is to the east of us, and France is to the west of him, and these are growing powers, and he feels threatened by them, and he doesn't want, you know, to lose a war if he was to get into war with them, which they will. But eventually, because of the Berlin Conference, now they have kind of a foot in the doorway, right? They have a guarantee that they can now be a player in imperialism. And so they are going to now establish a small number of protectorates, okay? So by World War I, we're going to see that the total amount of African territory that Germany will acquire is going to be 5 times as much as Germany is in its size. I mean, if you compare Great Britain to its entire, it's like, you know, 20 times or something like that. Okay, and then basically here we go. Just listing all these territories just for you to have. Don't need to explain too much why. It's not that important. Just knowing that they have now acquired these territories. All right, Italy. Okay, Italy also late to unify. So because Germany and Italy are late, they're behind, and they are the least successful. Okay, Eritrea is right by Egypt and Somaliland. Do you guys see that on the right-hand side? Kind of. Okay, so that's by the Red Sea. First colony by Italy, right? But then they try to get another territory and they lose. What is that? Ethiopia, right? And so they are shamed because, dude, since when do Europeans lose to native soldiers, right? We have to understand, just in the next 10 seconds, okay, very simply, the European dominance in industrialization, right, and military technology, it's like far superior than the African shields and spears. We understand that? Machine guns. We've seen Last Samurai, right?
Yeah. So sad.
No competition, right? No competition between European powers, and so they lose, right? And so Mussolini eventually in World War II will try to take Ethiopia back, kind of like revenge, right? And then you have the second Italian territory. Do we know what that is? What's the other Italian territory?
Libya.
Good. Libya, not Liberia. Okay? And then Portugal has some Angola down there. and Mozambique.